Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me on this sharing on neurology of sports and meditation and why these two activities build our overall happiness. My name is Miguel Serna. I'm a behavioral scientist and evolution coach, and human behavior has been my passion for many years already, more than 3 decades. But the interest actually started when I was little, when I started to observe what people did, how they walk, how they look, and then I was imitating them. And later on, I started to asking a lot of questions of why people do what they did, and um, and so and then I started asking a lot of questions of why people did what they did. And at the time and right now, I continue asking this question. So anyway, so this curiosity brought me to a lifetime of research and studies on human behavior and many other areas that are related to that. So at some point in my curiosity, I made it my goal to find out the neurological reason for human behavior. And I did. And today I'm going to share quickly a little bit of how sports and meditation influence our neurological response and how that neurological response help us to feel happy, which is actually what we all are looking for. So a couple of days ago, when we broadcasted this on Instagram, I had two sponsors, Ruka, that is a brand name that lives on the balance of the opposite, and the PP Training Center located in Mindelo here in Portugal. And this training center is exclusively for personal training on Pilates, Jiu Jitsu, and surfing. So if you want to know more about PP Training Center, you can go to Instagram at pptrainingcenter.com. And of course, Become, which is a system that I developed that is the integration of different programs. And the idea is that by following these programs, you will meet your ideal self. It's a body and mind integrating system. Allow me to tell you just a little bit about it. Become Mind and Body Fitness is as I said, it's a system that includes different programs that go from thought to the life you have. So, and basically, this model actually shows the process towards the life you have. So you think, you get into action. This action brings you into an experience. This experience makes you feel something and stirs some emotions in you, because our body, once we are within that experience, our body releases certain chemical reactions. We are going to be talking about those chemicals reactions today. And so those feelings and those emotions build the narrative, your personal narrative, how you tell the story of your day, of your life. And then that narrative builds your mental and physical state. Now, that mental and physical state makes the life you have. So for the last 20 something years, 26 years, I've been trying to help or helping individuals and organizations to go through the bottleneck of our evolution process. We all go through these moments many times in our lives. And the main tool that I have used to help is neurolinguistic programming. So, neurolinguistic programming helps me to change the meaning of the factors that build your story. And once you change the meaning of the factors the elements that build your story, then you change your narrative. Once you change the narrative, once you change what you tell about your day, about your life, then you change your actions. Your mental and physical states change, and so your life changes. Basically, that's more or less, in a very general terms, what Become is all about. But if you want to know more about it, please visit my website. Is here is www.bkome.org, become.org. And then you can read a little bit more about the program and about my background. We're going to be talking about the neurological aspects, building up our physical and mental well being, our happiness. And for that, I want us to keep these six principles in mind because they build like the macro environment for the specifics that we are going to be talking about later. So the first principle is that every action we take requires signals from our brains, period. No signals, no action. The second principle is that the brain works on the basis of use it or lose it. So if you stop doing something, your brain interprets that stop doing something as you don't need it anymore. So it shuts down that part of the brain and keeps that energy for survival purposes or for whatever other purposes. Remember that the brain, the human brain, evolved to keep us within the comfort zone. And that is good for the brain in terms of sort of saving energy, but it's not good for our survival. And the reason is this: once you meet a situation in which you have to react, if you don't have that part of the brain active, your reaction will be not possible or too slow. And when it comes to survival things, it might make it difficult for you to overcome a challenge. So anyhow, so it's important that we understand at this point, the principle number two is that if you stop doing something, your brain shuts it down. So if you don't use a function, you lose it. Now, the principle number three is that neurons that fire together stay together, and we want that. Actually, we want more neurons to fire together and stay together. That brings us to principle number four, which is that the more actions, physical and mental, we make at the same time, the more neuroactivity there is. And we want this more neuroactivity at certain moments of our days. We go to principle number five because the more neuroactivity there is, the more neurons and neurofertilizers we create. And we want to do that to enhance our neuroplasticity. And that brings us to the principle number six. The better the neuroplasticity, the more capable we are to adapt and live healthier and maybe longer. Well, death comes from different venues, so may not live longer, but we're definitely gonna live healthier, and we want to do that simply because if you are gonna live, longer by being sick, that will be a pain for yourself and for people around you. So I guess these six principles kind of summarize things that we should never forget, basically. The more that you go in the effort to remember these six principles, the more you will stay in practices, life practices that will actually ensure that you are healthier. So there are many things in the environment that we cannot control, like the COVID-19, for example. But those people who were actually having a healthier lifestyle then will be or have been in less risk or more able to fight the virus than some other people. So, and a last advice is that do not intoxicate your body and sleep well. Okay, so six principles. Let's keep it in mind. Now, this is the trilogy of fitness. It's a model that I developed just to explain how you create you. So, um, the soul that people talk about it is the quality of the person you are. The quality of the persona you are. So this trilogy of fitness is health, strength, and power, and it actually balances the three factors by mind, body, and brain, by the interaction of mind, body, and brain. So remember one important thing. Right now, when we talk about fitness, people refer to doing physical exercise. And that is correct, but that makes you physically fit or fit for physical effort, for physical activities. But it doesn't make you fit for life necessarily. All these years, more than 3 decades that I started trying to help people to, find out different ways to come up, to stand up, to wake up, to go back to their life. um, I have met very strong, physical strong people with not necessarily strong minds or healthy minds. Now, so it's important to have to understand that health and strength of both mind and body are important to the overall fitness. A very strong person, a physical strong person with a sick, unhealthy mind could be a liability to society. So we need to have a healthy, not only strong, but also a healthy mind, because that will make a soul that is beneficial for the person, for the individual, as well as for his or her surroundings. So it's important to keep these two things in correct balance between health and strength, and that is power. I give you an example: slavery. If you go back in history, where slaves were physically strong people with very weak minds. And that's why they were put into slavery. Now, their masters, or people who put them into slavery, were not necessarily physically strong people, but they have a strong mind, not necessarily healthy, but strong. And that's why they dominated the physical strong people. You got my point? So really, what matters for you to be able to overcome the challenges is not the physical strength, is the mental strength. But you need a, a strong mind that is healthy, or otherwise you could become a liability. So how do we create this strong and healthy, powerful soul? So your mind, you make a decision and you say, I want to get better. And that thought puts your body into motion. When your body starts moving, it sends signals to your brain and tells, I need signals here, please, so that I can work better. The brain sends signals, nutrients, blood, oxygen, and everything that is required. And the muscles, the body, feedback to the brain, and so on and so forth. This interaction between body and mind also gives a feedback to the mind, telling them, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting more self-confidence, I'm getting happy, I'm feeling better. And then your mind start creating a different kind of story. And so your soul changes into a better one. And as I say, the world is filled up with a lot of physically strong people and not necessarily healthy, with very or not very bad, with unhealthy minds. And that's why we see criminality, for example, one of the reasons. We see murdering, we see raping, we see wars. So the stronger and the healthier our soul, by that saying our mind and our body is, I believe that this has a good positive influence upon society. So, anyways, keep in mind this trilogy of fitness. For the last 25 years, again, like I've been different places in the world. I've been asking people from different countries, different genders, different venues, different occupations that practice different sports. Why do they practice sports? Most people have answered like this: get healthier, get fit, get stronger, look better, release stress, feel better, be part of a community, or learn a skill. Now, being part of a community is not necessarily said but implied, and actually is a key factor for your overall happiness. The belonging to a certain community is important for your satisfaction as a human being. We are social animals. And learning skills, not too many people say that, but it is a very important thing in terms of um, generating all the hormones, all the hormones that we need for one of the cocktails that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So I speak of sports, of practicing the sports and doing meditate and doing exercise. And it's not the same thing. We exercise when do sports, but not the other way around. So if we practice sports, we exercise. If we exercise, we do not necessarily practice sports. Now, the advantage of practicing sports is the learning and practice of skills because this stimulates even greater amount of neural activity. So intellectuality, right? Intellectual activities um, require is a complex combination of neural activity, and that actually enhances our sense of accomplishment. And we want to do that. So we want to end a day feeling that it was a good day. Not every day is like this, but on a line of ups and downs is more or less a positive curve. Let's put it this way. I said at the beginning that I wanted to find out the neurological reason for human behavior, and I did. But it turned to be an endocrinological reason, and I put the quotations because I couldn't find that word as a word that exists, but I believe that is correct. Anyhow, let me introduce to you here our endorphins friend, which is one of the easiest hormones of happiness that we can actually generate. So, when we talk about hormones, I like this quote from Dr. John Was. He is a professor of endocrinology at the Oxford University. And he say it's not a matter of how we control hormones, but indeed how hormones control us. Elaborating on what Dr. Was said, I propose that hormones control us, which is true, but we can control how we generate hormones. And this is important because if we know what hormones do to us and we know how to generate hormones, then we can actually create them and keep that overall happiness that we are talking about. Now, I propose that if we are going to live longer, and we do live longer than previous generations, if we are going to live longer, we better do it happy and in good health. And I believe that most of us will agree with that. But to be happy, part of it is having a party time, and this is how we enter to the cocktails that I want to introduce to you, the recipes of two cocktails I want to introduce to you. And you know what they say, the stronger the better. Excuse me. And depending on the cocktail that you are taking, yeah, the stronger the better might be right. But I believe that it's about putting the right amount of all the ingredients that make that perfect cocktail. So I'm going to be presenting to you two recipes. One is a nice, and another is a not too nice cocktail of hormones. Okay, because again, so the hormones are the ones who help us to or make us feel either happy or sad or angry, things like this. This, of course, as a reaction to a stimuli. Just as an information, we have about 50 hormones in the body serving about 100 trillion cells. That means at all times there are a lot of hormones running on all over the body, and then the cells have certain receptors, thus again, specific hormones that affect or influence how they function. Okay, so this is the first cocktail. This is the bad news, or not necessarily bad news, but it's not necessarily a cocktail that you want to be drinking every day. And I call it the life-threatening cocktail. It's not too nice, but it's necessary. So whenever we are in a stressful situation, these ingredients come together and make this cocktail to help us face that stressful situation. Excuse me. But we have to understand one thing. threat could be real or mental, depending on our experience, past experience, whether or not we have knowledge, what kind of information we feed our minds with, what kind of people we are around, what kind of life we have. I give you an example. I don't surf, but my friend Paulinho, who is the owner and expert coach on the PP Training Center, he is a surfer. He and I go to the beach and we see a high wave coming towards us. To me, that's a life threatening situation. To him, it's a chance to have fun. So, see, I constructed in my mind what could happen, positive or negative, and I start releasing the ingredients for that perceived threat or for that real threat. If I don't know how to swim in the ocean, the threat is real. But if I know how to swim in the ocean, but I never surf, maybe I'm creating a little bit of a story that has no more foundation than my imagination. Anyhow, this is the power of the mind. I create that positive story, I create a different kind of neurological and endocrinological reaction. I create a negative story, and that's how my mood is affected. So the ingredients for from this real or perceived threat are cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. These three are like the main stress hormones, and then it's a vasopressin is there because it actually helps for social recognition, prolactin, and other minor hormones that influence the secretion of the main hormones, of the main stress hormones. So the doctor's advice for this cocktail is to avoid the hangover by training your capacity to deal with stress. Sure, you can find people, health professionals, psychologists, coaches that can give you a training on how to deal with the stress in different situations so that you get ready for whenever these cocktails come up inside your body so that you don't have a hangover. And now we're here to the happiness cocktail, which is the one I'm going to spend a little bit more time on. So every time you are involved in fulfilling and relaxing activities, you have ingredients from this happiness cocktail. Also, it is a response to positive stress, pain from positive stress. Doing exercise is positive stress. Anything that put you no so any stressful situation that will make you better is positive stress. Doing exercise, studying for an exam, and so on. So this cocktail, this happiness cocktail, has ingredients from movement and ingredients for from static effort. That is meditation. I'm telling you. I'm gonna tell you about this in a second. So the ingredients for movement are endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Right? So endorphins, the easiest one. You go for a walk, you eat your favorite dish, you talk to people, you volunteer, you have sex, you walk under the sun, you go swimming, endorphins. So get a lot of it every day. And then it's dopamine, which is one of my favorite hormones. I call it the marketing hormone, but in a different sharing, I will share with you a little bit of how we can use dopamine as a for our marketing strategy. So anyhow, dopamine comes or is released by the brain by the expectation of a reward, not by the reward, but for what we expect from something. So, um, why is it important? For example, wrapping up a gift is because we don't know what is inside. So when we don't know what is inside, there is an expectation of something good coming in, and then you release dopamine. So it's the expectation, not the reward. Have you noticed that once you get that something that you wanted so much, that thing stops being so significant? And that is because while you wanted it, then you release a lot of dopamine, and that created a motivation towards that goal. Now, serotonin is sort of, the social hormone, and what it does is it put us. It comes most of the time. It comes together with dopamine. It put us in a good mood, and it in this good mood help us to be more agreeable with other people. When we are more agreeable with other people, we create a sense of community or belonging to a community. And when that happens, we have more social support, right? So it also helps for social recognition. And then it's oxytocin that I call the secret ingredient for the happiness cocktail. And a tint of vasopressin for social recognition adds to it as well. So, but before I tell you more about the oxytocin, let me ask you a question. What could be worse than a lifetime in prison? And this is an important question to understand how this hormone works. So, what could be worse to be a lifetime in prison? To be put in isolation. So imagine someone is going to be in jail for his whole life at the time he dies, and it's okay. Mind the quotations. But if we need to punish this person even further, then we put him in isolation. And what happens when we are in isolation is that our oxytocin level, goes down or goes down towards zero. This is more or less how oxytocin works. In a solo situation, let's say we have zero oxytocin, and then we go into a place where there is people I don't know, people I don't interact with, but there is people, then my body, my brain starts releasing oxytocin. And then if I talk to someone, I release more. If I talk to many, I release more. If I have a social physical contact or physical contact, I release even more. And if the physical contact is intimate, then I release a lot, a lot, a lot of oxytocin. Let me tell you, I was talking to a kid. A kid was explaining to me certain process that she follows on doing her business. She is a 13-year-old girl, and in explaining it, how effective that thing that she's doing could be, she used it a lot, a lot, a lot, and I thought it's pretty. It was pretty nice way to say very in a more extensive way, so to put it. So anyhow, oxytocin, I say, is the secret ingredient for a perfect happiness cocktail. And then I put jujitsu here because we're speaking about sports and meditation and the neurological reaction to that. So I want to bring jujitsu into the picture for one reason, because jujitsu is the perfect sports for generating oxytocin. And why is that? Not only oxytocin, but when we practice jiu-jitsu, we learn skills and we practice those skills. So it's the mental, the learning part of it, the concentration of it. We are attentive to the class and we are attentive to the moves of the other person and attentive to the moves we are going to make. We are at all times in physical contact. Imagine jiu-jitsu is rolling on the ground, by the way, which makes us happy. Remember when we were kids, we were rolling on the ground. That was the happiest moment. So in jiu-jitsu, you are in physical contact all the time, and then you are rolling on the ground. And that's it's what makes jiu-jitsu a sport that everybody should practice. Skills, the rolling on the ground, the physical contact, the learning makes us part of a community that is really, really, tight and supportive. Nowhere else. I practice judo, boxing, and then jiu-jitsu. And I'm very new in jiu-jitsu, not even 3 years. But nowhere else I have found this connection with my other sport teammates. I like my friends from judo. I like my friends from boxing, of course. But that sort of connection happens with jiu-jitsu, and that's how I actually came up with the idea of sharing the neurology of sports and meditation because of jiu-jitsu. So again, so jiu-jitsu is a sport I believe that everybody should practice regardless of age and gender or anything else, any demographics. It doesn't really matter. Right? And the reason is because we produce all the other hormones from movement plus oxytocin because of the constant physical contact that we have. It makes us even happier because we are rolling on the ground. Do you remember when was the last time that you roll on the ground? Go do it and see how it makes you feel. Anyways, more on that later. Now, researchers say that there could be a downside uh, to oxytocin due to this affiliation effect. So, oxytocin is called the bounding hormone, and the main function is to facilitate contractions of the uterus when a mother is giving birth to a new baby. But it also creates that sense of belonging, the sense of affiliation. So we call it the affiliation effect. Because of this affiliation effect, there could be a little bit of jealousy that could lead to aggression. Of course, if you have a healthy mind, this aggression will not happen. We will feel the happiness of being part of a community, but we will not recur to aggression for sure. So, so sports and meditation will help you to have that healthy mind that will avoid that aggression thing. So, period, no problem at all. Okay, so these ones are the ingredients for the happiness cocktail that come from movement. And now let's see the ingredients that come from a static effort, which is meditation in this case. My journey of meditation is a very it's been very exciting and very diverse. So I started when I was about 17, 18 years old in El Salvador in a Maya community. Now I call this meditation that they did social transcendental meditation. It's a name that I just created because I interpreted the way we did it is social and is transcendental. So we transcend from our body to another person or another object. In that case, it was a tree. And many years later, I went to Fo Guang San, which is a Buddhist temple in the south of Taiwan. And I stayed there for 2 months and I started walking meditation, sitting meditation, lying down meditation, drinking tea meditation, Tai Chi meditation. And all we did was meditate, eat, and sleep. And that was a time in my life where I felt the strongest ever, physically and mentally. Vegetarian food, meditation, and sleep. And then in the process of studying meditation, I stopped with the Book of Secrets, written by Osho, who developed Tantra. And this Book of Secret has 112 different breathing techniques. You have to try every one for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you will find out the breathing technique that fits you better, and that will be your meditation technique for the rest of your life. Then I also practice Tai Chi and Qigong. I also practice yoga meditation and learn the teaching of Hatha Yoga. And Hatha Yoga is part of the. It's not Hatha Yoga. Okay, it's moves from Hatha that are included in Become. And then last year in September, I went a couple of months to the north of China to the Shaolin Temple to learn a little bit of Kung Fu and also practice I Ching Ching and Patuan Ching, which include Qigong and the meditation part. So in that process, putting this studies or this learning on meditation together with my studies on human behavior, social psychology, and so on, I developed neuro-linguistic programming meditation. Again, neuro-linguistic programming has been my main tool to help people to change their narrative. So, and this NLP meditation is what I call the new path. If you'd be interested in learning about NLP meditation, you can contact me. Through the website Become. Okay, so what are the ingredients? By the way, so 2 minutes of meditation a day do miracles. Try to do it in the morning before you start your day, in the evening when you are ready to go to sleep. Excuse me. So when we do meditation, we release serotonin, which is the happy hormone, a neurotransmitter. We also release DHEA. We call it the longevity hormone. We release endorphins, the natural high. Remember, endorphins give you this kind of um, drug high thing. The advantage is that it doesn't create any addiction and is free. Doing meditation also boosts the growth hormones, the release of growth hormones, which is basically the foundation of youth, and also boosts melatonin, which is the sleep molecule. And remember that perhaps the most important part of any training is rest. So the quality of your sleep is very important so that to feel happy during the day, the following day. But meditation, besides adding ingredients to the happiness cocktail, it also reduces, ingredients from the life-threatening cocktail. It reduces cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine, who are the three main stress hormones. Remember, we don't want to keep these hormones in our body acting for too long or too often because they shut certain important functions of the body. So if we shut those important functions of the body, we will come up with physical problems later on. So there you go. This one, yes, the stronger the better. I'm talking about the happiness cocktail. And the advice for those who decide to get drunk with the happiness cocktail is to enjoy the hangover very much. Now, what do we need just to put this together? What do we need? So, from motion, or put it this way, so this ingredients for the happiness cocktail come from motion, physical contact, ground game, learning and using skill, and also from static effort. So all this together, from motion or from movement, we have endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And from static effort, we also have a surge of serotonin, DHEA. We also have endorphins. We add growth hormones and melatonin to the cocktail. Now, if we add physical contact to the meditation side, we add oxytocin to the cocktail. Like, for example, in couples therapy, we have a certain meditation activities that couples can do, and that's a lot of oxytocin, and so you can reinforce the connection that already exists in couples. Yeah, so just connecting the pieces together, this is the last slide. Let's remember that overall happiness requires enhancing some hormones and lowering some others, that both enhancing and lowering hormones release can be achieved through exercising and meditating. Exercise and meditation boosts growth hormones and enhance neuroplasticity. Remember, we want neuroplasticity to be our brain to be very plastic so that it rewire itself at any moment and help us to survive or adapt to different situations. The more we use our body and mind at the same time, the better. Again, this goes as beneficial for our neuroplasticity. And the more social and wilder the activity we do, the better. These are the hormones that we need to increase are here: endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, DHEA, and melatonin. And the hormones that we need to reduce: cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, vasopressin, prolactin, and gonadotropins, more or less, and some others that are minor that I don't mention in here. So pretty much that is the sharing is very simple on the neurological reactions of sports and meditation. Now that we know how we can produce positive and negative, not positive and negative, but hormones for happiness and hormones for stress, then we can direct our actions towards activity that generates more positive hormones. Like, remember, light is very important. Sunlight is very important, right? You don't need to be 2 hours under the sun, but you need to have some 50 to 20 minutes in there, so to generate also those happiness hormones. And this is a group of my jiu-jitsu mates. As you see, some black belts, some brown belts, blue belts. These guys are world champions at some point. We have a 12-year-old kid. It's fantastic, very technical right now. It's really rolling with us. And I call this group Happy Savages, overloaded with oxytocin and everything else a cocktail must carry to be a happy one. Once again, thanks to PP Training Center. And of course, feel free to contact me through become.org or find me in Instagram at dr.cerna and ask any questions if you want to learn more about the neurology of sports and meditation. Thank you so much. Have a great day.